Hey guys, this is your host Eric. Today we are going to watch action genre movie called Lucky Day. Spoilers ahead, turn on your subtitle, I greatly appreciate your support. Enjoy the video. The film begins in a prison where an inmate named Red has been imprisoned for robbing a bank. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but only 2 years in. He was granted parole for good behavior, and the good news doesn't stop there. When he was released from prison, he found his wife, Chloe, waiting outside to pick him up. Beatrice, their daughter, only wants to speak French after learning it from her Mexican nanny. Even so, when Ritz returns home, he tries to reconnect with Beatrice. The scene then shifts to an airport, where a Frenchman named Luc appears to be having a run-in with an immigration officer. The problem was quickly resolved, but if the officer had known he was a psychopathic hitman who had come to the United States to find his target, he would not have let him go, and people would have easily noticed his cruelty in allowing him to leave the airport. Luc would require instead of renting a car or hailing a taxi, he went to the parking lot and attempted to steal one of the vehicles there. The owner of the car saw him in action and immediately tried to call the police to report a crazy man attempting to steal his car. But before the film could begin, Luc took out his knife and slit the poor man's throat, with no one to stand in his way. Luc is free to steal the car and then drive it to a bar. The bar owner, Tom, clearly recognized him, as evidenced by his fear when he saw them. Luc had come to kill him, but his guests were mistaken because Luc only wanted Tom to give him weapons. Tom turned out to be an illegal gun dealer, and his bar was just a front, so Tom took Luc to the roof and displayed various weapons to him. Several of the guns piqued his interest, and he immediately fired one at a man standing by the roadside. He killed the man with ease and without a trace of guilt. Luc and Tom returned to the bar after selecting weapons, where Tom's friends insulted him. He shot them all, including Tom, who was about to shoot him with a shotgun. In the meantime, Red is admiring a painting in his home. The painting, which belonged to Chloe, was strangely similar to the walls of his old prison. She turns out to be planning to show the painting in an art exhibition tonight, and she wants him to be there despite the fact that he knows nothing about art. Later in the gallery, as Chloe is preparing her painting for display. Later that evening, gallery owner Derek takes her to his room and seduces and attempts to propose to her. Chloe, I adore you. My daughter has arrived, and I am now married. He is correct. For you, I would set fire to this gallery. She flatly refused, even threatening to inform her ex-convict husband about his inappropriate behavior. Derek was terrified upon hearing that, though the pain in his heart at being rejected was far greater than his fear for. As a result, he angrily threatened Chloe, saying that if she didn't sell any of her paintings tonight, she'd have to pay the gallery's exorbitant rent. Derek is forced to seize all of her assets if she is unable to pay. Meanwhile, Red goes to a pawn shop owned by his best friend Leroy, who also happens to be his robbery partner. But just as they were recounting their experiences over the past few years, a man entered the pawn. Ernesto is the man, a police officer who still suspects them and is seeing Red after being reunited with his best friend. Ernesto warns him not to do anything stupid because he is still on parole, but after confirming that Red is not carrying weapons or drugs, he immediately abandons his suspicions about them. As soon as he leaves, Leroy takes Red to a secret underground room where he wants to show him their loot, which he keeps in a safe that looks exactly like the one in the bank. They then challenge Reed to open the safe in order to see if he still has the skills to break into the safe, but he fails. Being in prison caused him to forget how to break into a safe, but Leroy is confident that if he works hard enough, his skills will return one day. For the time being, Leroy used the key to open the safe, revealing a stack of $600,000 bonds inside. They intended to cash out their loot, but Red wanted him to attend Chloe's art exhibition elsewhere first. Luc comes to a halt after seeing another car that piques his interest. He wanted to own the car and he always got his way. He obviously got the car after shooting the owner. No, I like your vehicle. But then he drives recklessly and is stopped by patrol officers. Luc immediately pulled over and got out of the car before shooting at the cop who tried to stop him. What had become of the vehicle? Take note of that. Later that night, Red and Leroy went to see Chloe's painting exhibition. Not only that, but Ernesto showed up because he is a cop who also happens to be a painter. Unfortunately, her paintings did not receive positive feedback from the judges, who described them as flat and lifeless, infuriating Red when he heard them. He would have hit them if Leroy hadn't restrained him while her father was about to punch the art critics. Beatrice was with Lolita at home. It was almost time for them to go to bed when someone knocked on the front door, and when Lolita opened it, she saw a strange person trying to enter the house. It turned out to be Luc, and his reason for coming to America was to track down Red, who had entered the house after seeing a lunatic. Lolita puts up a fight to get him to leave. Leave now. Oh, she's a little girl. But Luc killed her like she was nothing more than an insect to him. But LTAS sacrifice was not in vain because it allowed Beatrice to flee. Luc attempts to shoot her but fails because she has fled. He He was irritated by his failure. This was the first time his prey had eluded him, and the fact that his prey was a young girl made him even more embarrassed. But he didn't have time to think about her. He still needed to look after Red, who was not at home, so he searched the house until he found an invitation card for Chloe's art exhibition. Luke enters the gallery shortly after Beatrice. We're not wasting any time. He shot everyone there, including the judges, causing their blood to splatter on Chloe's paintings, and no one could stop him except Ernesto, who had a gun with him. However, during a shootout, Leroy was hit by a bullet, which seriously injured him. Before he passes out, he hands over the key to his safe to Red, who rushes to save his family and whisks them away. Unfortunately, Luke notices them fleeing in a car and immediately chases them down. Red tells Chloe who Luke is and why he wants to kill him. He is the brother of Red's comrade who was killed during a robbery and holds Red responsible for his death. So that is the main reason Luke wants them dead. Not only about Luke, but Red also tells Chloe about his $600,000 Luke. Much to Chloe's surprise, she had assumed the bonds had been destroyed all along, but now that she knows what happened to them, she asks Red to cash them later because it is the only thing that can save them from bankruptcy. After all, her art show had failed miserably due to Luke, so they drove to the Leroy pawn shop. Red asked Chloe and Beatrice to wait in the car for him as he went inside to collect them. But just as he walks in, Luke appears and takes them to the basement to meet Red. Red knows that if he doesn't act, Luke will kill his wife and daughter, so he offers all of his loot to Luke in exchange for their lives. However, the negotiations were unsuccessful. Luke flatly refuses his offer and instead shoots Red. During the chaos, Beatrice enters the safe, which Luke has locked. He intends to kill her by depriving her of oxygen. He then pursued Chloe, who had fled into the tunnel. It didn't take him long to track her down, and he punched her until she passed out. Red, on the other hand, is shown to be alive. The bullet Luke fired did not strike his body because it was blocked by the key to the safe. He stored it in his jacket pocket. Seeing as Luke is not present, he then tries and fails to open the safe. The safe key had been broken after being struck by A. So, for the time being, he can only ask Beatrice to remain calm and save her mother's life. Moments later, Luke reappears, and a fight breaks out between him and Red. Luke eventually corners him and holds him at gunpoint. However, Ernesto arrives just as Luke is about to kill Red and shoots him multiple times. He realizes he is about to die. Luke then pulls out a pair of bombs and attempts to blow up the pawn shop and everything inside it. But because the bombs were ineffective, they could only destroy him and the bonds. But that doesn't mean it's over. Ritz must still save Beatrice, who is running out of oxygen. Fortunately, despite his initial nervousness, he can regain his skills after fully concentrating. I'm going to get it out of here. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave. He was able to open the safe and free her. Ernesto decided to let Red go after witnessing everything that had happened to the family in the previous few hours and seeing how happy they were to be reunited. He's going to act as if Red had nothing to do with anything that happened tonight. After all, Ernesto's superiors would almost certainly award him a medal for stopping Luke. At the end of the film, Red and Chloe talk about what they should do next at their house. Following the failure of Chloe's art exhibition and the Red theft of bonds, start a fire. But Derek soon arrived to inform them that all of Chloe's paintings had sold for $300,000 each. People seem to like the art critics' blood splatter on the paintings. The blood brings the paintings to life and elevates their artistic value. And the film concludes with Red, Beatrice, and Chloe joyfully dancing to celebrate their newfound fortune. The film then concludes. We really appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell because it is really important for us. Thank you.